I'm here today with Chris Blair, who is a former Principal Cornet player of Whitburn Band. Fantastic to meet you again, Chris. Can you tell me, when did you start playing with the band and when did you start playing?
Started 1935 when I was 5-year-old, and I joined the senior band 6-7 months later.
So into the
played
senior...
the first gallery season starting June.
Starting in June, so you're a very young boy to be playing at the Gallery. How old were you when you did your Gallery?
5.5, thereabouts.
5.5. And I remember you telling me that the senior band had to adapt.
The senior band had to shorten their stride because my little legs couldn't keep up.
That is a fantastic story, to be doing your first Gallery at 5.5.
Yeah.
And not only you were in the band, but your brother played too.
My brother played as well. He was just under 4 years old there.
That is fantastic. And what was it like being involved in the band as a wee family back then?
It was fine to start with, but him being older, he grew older quicker.
Yes.
And I was left behind.
Oh. And I remember you saying to me that one of the first conductors that you worked with in the senior band was John Falls.
He was the first professional conductor, yeah.
And what was John like with the band?
I thought he was very good. He was slightly disappointed at the first contest because we were so far down the
results.
Far down the list.
Yeah.
But he changed the band round a bit.
And how did you go about doing that?
It was very simple. He just told some of them that they were no longer required. Obviously, he worked through the bandmaster. He said that they were no longer required, and he changed some of the cornet players. He put some of the front rank into the back rank, second and thirds, and eventually some of them went to other instruments.
Right.
Some of them left, and that was the start of the band picking up.
So he moved a few things round as he thought was best to move the band forward. And during the early years before the Second World War, what was rehearsals like? What was the atmosphere at rehearsals? Was it a community atmosphere, a real kind of town band atmosphere?
It was a smooth atmosphere in the early years. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. And did you enjoy going to rehearsals? And
I'd enjoyed, yes.
Yes. And you got a good balance of playing and meeting other people who were there, especially being so young as well. It must have been great for you to watch other players play.
Well,
and learn from
there
them.
was that to it. Some of the older players took me under their wing a wee bit, and that helped. Especially one of the E-flat bass players,
right,
John Hastings.
And he guided you.
He guided me quite a lot, yeah.
That's good.
Aye.
And then later on, towards the end of the 1930s, of course, the war came, and that impacted the band. Can you tell me how did that impact the band, and how does that impact the members?
Well, it impacted the band in the way that obviously when the lads were called up, there was a shortage of players.
Yeah.
And we got assistance from like Armadale Band, Shots.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but the soprano player came in for Shots Fountain, and there was other lads came in from Shots and Deckhead. And they joined the band, and it was built up then.
And you told me when we met previously about the members of the band who did go off to take part in the war, and unfortunately one of the members didn't return.
Yeah, that was Willie Allen. He played in the solo cornet line. He was third down the row. His brother also played, Alec Allen. He played in the band, but Willie didn't return. Everybody else returned, but they didn't come back to the band.
Yes.
There was only one came back. That was James Aikman on trombone.
And you said the other day that obviously the men who came back were changed and they didn't come back to the band
They
after.
didn't come back to the band.
No. And unfortunately, one member didn't come back at all. And what was that like in the band receiving that?
Well, there was an
sad
atmosphere in the band. It was a wee bit desolate for a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can imagine the news coming back to the band room of that unfortunate death, that would have impacted the band, being such a tight-knit band and rehearsing a lot and seeing the same individuals. That must have been quite an upheaval. And during the war, as you say, people from Armadale Band and Shots came to help out, and some of the players then remained in the band.
Some of them
then remained in the band.
They remained in the band.
And carried the band forward. From 1945, the band became then the Welfare Band, and that changed the way the band moved in terms of the people who looked after it, and you rehearsed then in the welfare club. And I remember you telling me about you almost had you did have a change of job around about that time. Tell me, what did you do up until then?
I worked on the railway as a passenger clerk. Started there at 14, and I left at 16. Yeah. Because I was being moved into Queen Street in Glasgow.
That's right.
And I had to live in Glasgow. So that would be, the band would have been severed.
Yes.
So I got myself a job at the local colliery.
That's right, down at Paul Kemet, wasn't it?
Paul Kemet colliery.
Yes. So you moved to Paul Kemet because they were going to move you out to Glasgow. They just weren't thinking of the band, were they, back then? And later on, after then, you were moved from the back row to the principal cornet chair.
That's correct.
And who was it that moved you there?
It was the conductor then.
And was that Herbert Kearsley?
The professional conductor, right.
Yes, and Herbert's name's come up quite a lot in our information regarding the band history. What was he like as a conductor? What was he like as a man?
He was a gentleman, first and foremost. And he was a musician, secondly. He was very clever.
Yes.
Very clever. And he had the band under control. But he had a lot of experience with West Calder, and they were the first section band.
Yes. Yeah. And Herbert came into the band and moved some people about, and obviously you were one of them, and moved up to the principal cornet chair. Shortly after then, in the late 40s, going into the 50s, the band then really took off and started to move forward, did it?
Off, yeah.
And that really culminated in the Open win, which was in Edinburgh. And what did you win that day? I think you won almost everything, wasn't it?
We won the selection, the hymn tune, the march, and second in dressing department.
Second in dressing department. So almost a clean sweep there
almost
that day.
A clean sweep.
And I remember you telling me that you received a phone call later on that evening with the results.
Yes,
obviously then there was no mobile phones or internet to check on how the band had got on, so a fellow player phoned you and gave you the good news of that day.
And told me we were robbed.
And told us you were robbed of having not claimed the deportment prize. And then shortly after then came, of course, the famous 1954 win at the national finals, and you were playing principal cornet that day.
Yes.
Can you tell me, what was it like playing in the band then on that day and gaining that award and that recognition?
I don't have a lot of recollections. It was pie in the sky.
Yeah.
That sums it up. We went on the stage, we played, we come off, and it just happened.
Yes.
No real recollections of what we'd done.
No. And do you believe that was just a general continuation of the level the band had been operating at? It wasn't a out the park victory, it was something which the band had merited through the hard work they've been doing?
I think the band was merited.
Yes. And that was Herbert Kearsley that conducted that performance as well.
Herbert Kearsley.
Tell me about when you came back to Whitburn that day, that weekend, after that win.
Well, somebody must have phoned back to Whitburn with the result. And the whole of Whitburn must have turned out. They met the bus at Whitburn Cross round about midnight. And we actually played a march in the bus. All the way up the main street, up to the Welfare Hall.
Wow.
And when we got to the Welfare Hall, we had to more or less fight our way in, and then we had to play the test piece before everybody was happy.
And that was about the early hours of the morning?
About 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow, they must have been fantastic memories to see the crowds waiting for the bus to arrive. And I know that your wife, you were married shortly after that contest.
We were married shortly after that.
Your wife said to us the other day that she wasn't able to get into the hall, it was that full, and she heard the performance from outside. Actually she did get in, but we had to force her in. Force her in to get her in as part of the band, and she of course was down to see the performance when it actually took place. Again, these scenes are not replicated today, so that must be a real memory for you to treasure, seeing these scenes when you arrived back, and being the principal cornet player, you must have had real pride in the band and the performance that had taken place. And shortly after then, Herbert Kearsley, you said to me, gave the band a wee quote, and you quoted him about wanting, if you want to remain a town band.
That's correct. He said we needed to make up our mind to remain second section band where we would be the town band. If we move up to the first section, we would no longer be a town band.
And what do you think he meant by that?
I think what he meant was that they would need to bring in fresh faces to maintain the quality, and I think that's it in a nutshell.
Yes.
It would no longer be the town band.
Yes, it would lose that element of the people who lived in the town being members of the band. And that moves on to the idea of it being a family band, wasn't it? It was quite a lot of fathers and sons, and of course you mentioned your brother.
Yeah, there was fathers and sons and nephews and brothers.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's something which still rings true today of the band. There is countless families. We have a husband and wife and son who play in the band. My brother plays in the band. So I think that element still runs today, all these years later. And I think that's a real aspect and a positive of the band, that it still has that community aspect, even all these years later down the line from when you played in the band. Then after that contest, you and Herbert Kearsley left in the late 1950s.
Yep. And
then you moved on from the band in the early 1960s.
Yep,
and you continued then a long career of performance outside the band.
Outside the band.
Tell me some of the things you did after you left the band.
Well, it was mostly involved in charity work, but I did about 2 years with the Gas Board in Glasgow, and then I got involved in charity work, as I said, and that took up most of my life from then on.
And you've enjoyed a long life of musical value, not just in Whitburn Band, but
never regretted a minute.
No. And that is something which other members of the band have mentioned as well, previous members and current members, that they don't regret the length of time that they were involved in the band. So that is about 30 years or so that you were involved in the band from a very young age, 1935 up to about 1960.
1983.
And in 1983 you helped out, you came back a few times and helped out.
In the 60s I helped out, aye.
And the 60s as well. And if you were to give a final sentence about your involvement in the band, what would it be? What would you say that you do take away with you as being the aspect of Whitburn Band that you played in?
I would recommend it to anybody to join a brass band. It's a way of life. And the important thing on my side of the life was there was no trouble.
No.
Everybody led a good life. They were never involved in crime, if you like to use that, or drugs. Some of them enjoyed a pint.
Yes.
But so it was a good life.
And you made music together.
Yeah.
And you made lifelong friends.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's still echoed today. And it's been fantastic to hear your experience of being in the band, and of course, Principal Cornet player for many years in the band. And it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much, Chris Blair.
One final quote. Why make one person happy if you can make thousands?
Absolutely. And that is a fantastic way to end our interview today. Thank you very much indeed.